Hello, welcome back to another episode of Rare Matters Podcast, where we talk about rare matters because rare matters. I'm your host, Mikey Stone. It's so great to be back with everyone this week. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Today is actually Undiagnosed Disease Awareness Day. The day that I'm recording this, it is Monday, April 29th. And I know this won't go up till Wednesday, but I just wanted to tell everyone happy Undiagnosed Awareness Day to anyone who is experiencing symptoms or battling an undiagnosed disease. I know it is not a celebration, but I think it's important for us to stand in solidarity together, bring awareness to our situations, and just to continue speaking out about it. It's very important for days like this to be publicly talked about because, I don't think that a lot of people even know that today is Undiagnosed Awareness Day. So I just wanted to start off the video by saying that today is a very special episode. We have our first guest today. I'm so excited. We're new friends. It's been so amazing to get to know her, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her too. Her name is Savannah. She has been through a lot. I relate to her story so much. We both have different conditions, but just after talking to her, I feel so less alone, and that is my goal for today's episode, and also just bringing awareness to someone else's story. I think it could maybe help someone else out there feel less alone, or maybe someone else can relate to her story out there, or my story. I'm sure that if you're here watching the Rare Matters podcast, you might also have some type of chronic illness, rare disease, undiagnosed disease, whatever the case may be. Or you may just be looking for education. You may be a family member of a loved one with a rare, undiagnosed, or chronic disease. So, whatever the case may be, I hope that this episode resonates with somebody out there. My goal for wanting to bring people on here is just that. I want to bring awareness to not only my situation, you guys know my story, but I think it's important to highlight other people's journeys that they're battling, and raise awareness that way, because there are so many people out there living with rare and undiagnosed diseases, and not to mention chronic illnesses. I think there's a statistic saying, I think from the Mayo Clinic, that 25 million Americans are living with an undiagnosed disease. And that is crazy. That is a crazy statistic. It's so insane for something to be so, quote unquote rare, but so many people are living with these conditions. It just blows my mind. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm here, is to bring awareness, educate, all the good stuff. So I'm so excited for today's episode. Please stay tuned as we talk with Savannah. We're going to talk about her story, her journey, her life. We're going to talk about a lot of topics. She is an amazing person, and I'm so excited to just dive right in and get to know a little bit more about her. So stay tuned, and let's meet Savannah. All right, everyone. So let's welcome Savannah. I'm so excited to have you on today. Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Savannah, and I have Addison disease, FND, and a bunch of other undiagnosed stuff going on.
You are so I just want to say courageous, first off, for wanting to speak about your story. I know that you share a little bit about what you've gone through on TikTok and YouTube, but I just want to extend, gratitude and thanks for you for wanting to do this today. I think it's very important to bring awareness to other individuals going through similar medical situations. And I'm just so happy that you're here. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited too.
So I just wanted to start off, if you could just share with us your journey from like your first symptoms to being diagnosed with Addison's disease at such a young age. I think you said when we talked you were 8 years old.
Yeah, I was 8 years old. It
Yeah.
started out just like headaches, losing weight, skin darkening. Like I had all the signs, but it's like such an uncommon condition, and especially for children, it's not very common in children. So I went from like losing weight to like vomiting, not being able to eat,
Wow.
and then I like lost all of my muscles and like was unable to walk. And then I was in like hospitals. I kept going back to the doctor. He kept saying, "Oh, you just have the flu," and even though my flu test was negative every time,
Really? Are you serious?
yeah. So like I pretty much almost died like so many times because of him. And so my mom just kept taking me to the hospital, and finally they like kept me there, and they were like, "We don't know what's wrong." But like the only reason they took me in was because like my temperature was so low, like when you're dying, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, "Okay, something's wrong." So then I got moved to a bigger hospital, and they figured out that I had Addison disease and like treated me until I got better.
Gotcha. That must have been so hard. I can't even imagine. I mean, from one, I hate saying this term, from one sick kid to another, I completely empathize with you. I am so glad that they finally figured it out because from what I know about Addison's disease, I don't know a lot, but I know it usually happens in like people usually older than like 30, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and usually later on in life you get diagnosed with that, and
yeah.
yeah, so it just wasn't very common. I think that's one of the reasons why that I didn't get diagnosed. And then like a lot of like racism and like medical stuff because
Mm-hmm.
like my skin was darkening, like that's such a major sign, but it's really easy to tell like in lighter skin. But with me it was like, even my mom, like she's like, I just wasn't sure, just thought you were getting tanner. And so like
Yeah.
it was hard for people to tell like what was actually happening.
Absolutely. And I literally just did a whole episode on medical gaslighting. I know we kind of talked about it, but and I think we'll get into that, but it's so hard, especially with like stuff that, is rare or is usually diagnosed in older adults, and when a child is diagnosed with doctors seem to don't even want to look into that. I know that doctors logically want to look into maybe the more realistic possible stuff, especially for someone at that age. But when it comes down to it, you know, it can happen, and you're proof of that. And I'm just so glad that they were able to figure that out. and
Yeah,
and
because I would have been dead if they didn't. So
right, right. It's very serious and it's scary. It's so scary, and I just can't imagine the anxiety around that, especially being eight and not knowing what's really happening. I can relate a little bit to with you about that, and especially for your family. I'm sure that that was very hard on them and very scary for them.
yeah.
Yeah. I I also know that you shared with me that you have functional neurological disorder, and I actually have a few friends with FND, but I kind of wanted to, you know, touch on that a little bit. I want to know, how did your diagnosis of functional neurological disorder come about, and what was your initial reaction to that? Because I mean, I'm sure going, from having Addison's disease and other health issues as a kid to growing up and getting diagnosed with something like functional neurological disorder, I'm sure there was a lot of feelings around that.
Yeah. So it started out just like my face was drooping on one side, and like it started out twitching for like a
Yeah.
month. And I went to my doctor and he was like, "Oh, you just have migraines." I was like, "Okay." And so he gave me like medication for that. And then it just kept getting worse. Like I started drooping. And then I like couldn't really lift my left leg. Um,
Hmm.
and then like my legs like started jerking to the point where like my arms like started jerking to the point where it was hard for me to walk, and like I was having tremors. And at first I was like, it's just, I just hate gun slaughter. So I was like, this is weird, but like, it's probably maybe nothing. So
Yeah.
I like waited a day, and then it just like kept getting worse. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of scared. So I went to the hospital, and then when I was there, that's when I developed like tics, like bubble tics and motor tics. And then like a couple days into my hospital stay, I started having seizures. And they did like all the tests, or they did a bunch of tests. They didn't do everything, but
Hmm.
they did a bunch of tests, and all of them were clear pretty much. So they were like, "We think you have FED," and I was just like, "Okay." And they're like, "Here's a website to go to, and you should probably see a psychiatrist or a therapist or something." And then I just left the hospital, and then like,
And
yeah, and then that was all that they gave me. And then the next day, like I started having like paralysis. So I was like freaked out even more. So I went to a different hospital,
yeah,
and they were like said the same thing basically.
that is just, and they just let you go home.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm dying, and you're just like letting me leave.
Yeah. What kind of tests did they do? Because I feel you. I've had a ton of neurological tests done with me because I have a neurological condition. But what did the initial testing in those like first few days in the hospital look like for you?
They did like a CT, and then they did an hour long EEG. But this,
Mm-hmm.
they did the EEG before I ever even started having any seizures. But they were like, well, we can say it's going to seizure actually doesn't happen before it happens. I was just like,
Mm.
okay. So I just trusted them because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And then had to. I guess psychiatrist came and talked to me about the MD, and I was like, okay, but can I talk to a neurologist? Like, and so I had to beg them to have a neurologist come to my room, and then I had to beg the neurologist to give me an MRI. And but he was like rude. He was like, if you can't stay still, then it's a waste of an MRI because my body was jerking and stuff. I was like, bro, just give me some Ativan and like give me the
Like
MRI.
put me in the machine.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like
I want to know what's wrong with me. And
yeah.
so they like did an MRI of my brain. And like the whole time, like I was having severe neck pain. Like there was just so many things going on at once. I just kept telling them, and they were just like, "You're fine." And like they just like literally would not look at me. And so I had to beg them to give me an MRI, and they like were like, they did a brain MRI, and then they were like, "Oh, you don't have MS, you don't have this and that." I'm like, pretty sure you have
Hmm.
to do a whole spinal MRI too for like MS,
Yeah,
but
I'm pretty sure as well.
they didn't do that.
I am so sorry that you had to go through all that. I completely understand because I've definitely had doctors before they found my genetic mutations. My brain MRI was clear. They didn't want to do a spinal MRI, but kind of like you, I had to beg them,
Yeah,
be like, hey, like just please, like I will, I'll pay for it, whatever, like just and they were like, fine, okay, fine, and I do have some spinal stuff going on, but just the fact that you have to beg, is
yeah,
very sad, and it's just shows where work can be done within the medical system, so
yeah, definitely.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing like a little bit about that. I know that it's not easy, and it just sounds like you've been through so much, but I just want to say, and I'll probably say this like 10 times throughout the episode, but you're just so strong and so brave, and I really do look up to you. Like when I saw you on TikTok and YouTube, I watched all your videos, and I just related so much because from someone living with a rare or undiagnosed condition, also sharing their journey on social media. There was just so much that I related with your story. So
Thank you. That means a lot.
yeah.
And I feel the
Oh,
same way. I like watched all of your videos, and I was just like,
really?
going through the same thing.
I knew when we first started talking, I was like, we're gonna be besties. Like I already know.
Or no.
Because it's so nice, like especially like, I mean, it sucks like our situations, but it is so nice when there's someone else your age that is kind of going through similar stuff, and to be able to relate with. So I'm just so glad that I found you. And yeah. So moving on just a little bit, could you explain to the listeners out there, the viewers, what functional neurological disorder is and how it really affects your like day-to-day life? Because it can impact you in some major ways.
Yeah. FND is a brain network disorder that causes problems with the connections between the brain and the body. So it can cause like a lot of different neurological symptoms, maybe a whole list of symptoms. And that's what the website is too, by the way. Like it's just literally just
Hmm.
a list of all the symptoms.
Wow.
So for me personally, the biggest symptoms that I have are the non-epileptic seizures,
Hmm.
vocal and motor tics, and like dystonia, and like gait problems,
Yeah.
like weakness and numbness and like chronic pain.
Wow. Yeah, from what I've read, I don't experience it firsthand, but it can literally manifest in like so many different ways.
Yeah.
How do these symptoms, that you're experiencing, how does it get in the way of like your daily activities and like, your life in general? Because I know it can be very debilitating and it is, just in general.
Yeah, it's been pretty debilitating. I haven't like since this all started, I haven't really been able to cook. Like tremors are just really
Hmm.
bad. It's like standing, walking is super hard. And like
Yeah.
all the pain that I was feeling before, it's like 10 times amplifies. So like it's super hard. And then like randomly my like arms and legs might paralyze or like I'll just be numb. And so it's just like every day I wake up and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm able to do today. Some days are like semi-normal. Like I have a lot of other health problems that make it hard to do things, but
Right.
sometimes I can do normal things, and then some days like can't get out of bed.
Right. I totally understand where you're coming from. I completely like I empathize with you, sharing like neurological symptoms, in same but different ways, it's so I don't think people understand how debilitating it can be. Like, when people say, "Oh, but you're so young," like sometimes, because I get this a lot. Like sometimes it's like, "Oh, well, sometimes you can walk. So sometimes you can't. Sometimes I've give these a cane or a walker." And I'm just speaking for me, and
Yeah,
and it's like so hard to explain to people like this is not a one size fits all condition.
yeah. Like there's so many people in my life that don't understand that aspect because they're like, "Oh, well, you were fine yesterday." And if I'm like seizing in front of
Yeah.
them or something's going on, I'm like, "Yeah, like that's how it works." Like I could be fine 5 minutes ago and be
Hmm.
completely like can't talk, can't do anything.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. I completely understand that. As my chronic illnesses started ramping up, there were moments where, I'd be in a really good mood and like I'd want to go out and do stuff. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, I literally cannot walk. I don't know. I don't understand like what is happening. And I would have family members or friends be like, like what's going on? And it's just hard to explain to people. But the main thing is like it's real, and that's why I want to like bring awareness to it and to other people going through similar stuff because it's real and it's not in your head and it is so just debilitating. So, thank you for sharing a little bit about that. I know it's like I know it's difficult to talk about. I struggle sometimes talking about it myself.
Yeah.
You've mentioned also, I saw you, we think we talked about it on our initial phone call and stuff, but I think you mentioned also in your Instagram bio that you're also dealing with like undiagnosed Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and undiagnosed POTS. How have these potential diagnoses impacted your journey as well? And what challenges have you faced in getting a clear diagnosis for those? Because it's one thing to have one diagnosis, but to have multiple problems and multiple conditions, it just makes it so much harder. What challenges have you faced trying to get a clear diagnosis for those?
I've had a lot of challenges because I've had like Ehlers-Danlos symptoms pretty much my whole life. Like I had dislocations, like I've had to have surgery to get some tears, and like I have tears right now. I can't have surgery because I have seizures.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I didn't have the pot symptoms until after I had COVID. Um,
Gotcha.
and so like obviously like the EDS symptoms are like unless you mention it, like doctors aren't gonna know. And I like having my record from like childhood, like getting X-rays, like hip X-rays, knee X-rays, like so many times because I just been like I'm in so much pain, like I didn't know how to explain it or have like words to like what the condition was. But like there's a problem. Now, obviously, like X-rays don't show anything when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So they were just like no help. So there was just so much over the years. And then the only reason I got anything done about my knee is because I was completely unable to walk and like totally messed up. Uh,
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, yeah, X-rays are not ideal for that type of stuff. I think it's kind of crazy how they wanted to
yeah,
go with X-rays.
they're like, let's do extras first. I'm like, okay, but that's a waste of time.
Yeah, and money, like not to mention, like,
Yeah. But the pot syndrome that pretty obvious and like out there, like every time I go to the doctor, like they're like, oh, we might have to send you to the hospital because your heart rate is so high. And I'm like, this is my everyday.
mm,
And then they're like, okay, if you say so, then that's fine. I'm like, okay, but it's not fine. Like, can you help me? And,
yeah.
like, I've already seen one cardiologist. You say basically said she can help me, and I'm going to see another one. So hopefully I can get a diagnosis. And then I wanted to also point out the reason why I put in my like bio like undiagnosed of
Yeah.
these conditions is because, well, for one, I like have like pretty much all the symptoms, and even if it is something else, like it's it's similar, definitely something. And I wanted to showcase on my page like how hard it is to get a diagnosis like as a woman of color, like because there's so
Hmm.
many people, especially on Instagram. I feel like it's kind of very white, or at least it's just a bunch of white
Hmm.
women, and then they're like, I
Yep.
have POTS, and they're walking around, and I'm like, I can't stand up, girl.
Yeah.
And then and I'm like, and that was great for them. Like they have treatment and they take medication
Hmm.
for their symptoms and stuff. So like, I'm like not hating. I'm like, this is great for you. I was like, I'm just like struggling so hard because like it's completely disabling me. And then like so many people are like just so easily getting diagnoses and getting help, and
Yep.
I'm like struggling so hard. And it is just like I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's like harder for women of color to get diagnoses, and it's like been so many years of me complaining about this stuff, and I have gotten zero help.
I think that is such a valid point that you brought up, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I literally just did a medical gaslighting episode, like the episode before this. And there is a statistic where it said that women and women of color are like, I can't remember the statistic exactly like off my head. I'll have to go look, but it's significantly harder for them to have doctors take them seriously, and that further delays diagnosis, and that further delays treatment, that elongates, the pain that these women of color are in, and people of color in general. It's just it's wrong, and I think that the doctors know when they're doing it. And so I think that that is very important that you did put that in your bio. And I think it's important that you did bring that up because it is 100% true and it needs to be spoken about. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, and one of my notes
Yeah.
I had to like basically sometimes you just have to do the work for the doctors and bring it to them. And I
Yeah.
have, and, like I literally put it out in their face, and then like here's what I think I have, and they're like, oh, okay, and still
Hmm.
nothing.
Yeah, because some doctors, don't even know what these certain conditions are, especially if you've done your own research and you're like, yeah, this literally like lines up. Like, why would you not mention it to your doctor? And I think it's kind of weird how doctors sometimes are like, why did you do this? Like,
Or like, why are you googling things? Like you're just crazy type of
oh,
attitude.
I hate that. That literally, like, oh my gosh, I literally had a doctor that was just like, you need to stay off Google. And I was just like, if you're not going to help me, I
Right,
have to
like
try to help myself.
yeah, I've
Oh,
had doctors say the same thing, and I'm like, even please do something because
yeah. You're like, let's do something about it, actually. Yeah. No, I think that's very important that you brought that up. And it needs to be more made more aware. I totally agree. Moving into the next topic, medical gaslighting is a significant issue for many individuals with rare and chronic conditions, especially women of color, as we just talked about. Have you experienced medical gaslighting? And if so, how have you navigated through it? Or like, did you, what's been some of your medical gaslighting experiences that you want others to know or just to share?
well, yeah, as a brown woman, it's been hard.
Hmm.
Um, but like initially being young, like I said earlier, like when I was 8, like it was hard to get the diagnosis and to get doctors to take me seriously because I was a child, and
Yeah.
kids are fake things or whatever, and like just the craziest things that doctors come up with. That was super hard. But even now, like even as like 24, I'm like that doctors are like, oh well, you're too young to have this, or you probably don't have that. And I'm like, but I could, and you don't really know unless you do the test.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so true.
And yeah, I mean, I'm still struggling with it because obviously like I don't have diagnoses for half of the things that are going on with me.
Right.
And I think like FND is like one of those things that is like overly diagnosed and people will doctors will just get that out and like not want to do tests. Like I was saying, like, they didn't even do
Hmm.
full spinal MRI. And then I've gone through like 3 neurologists since then and like got a few tests, but like most of them don't do much. Like they just don't know what to do. And it's just so crazy to like be experiencing all these symptoms and then they just tell you like they can't help you. And I'm like, there needs to be like more research. Like I just feel like a lot of doctors just like don't put in the effort.
Oh, I completely agree. I think sometimes doctors are literally like, you know what, I don't have time for this, like,
Yeah.
and it's like for what? Like I'm here, I'm not, something's wrong, something's not
Right.
right. Like, can you at least help me or at least get me to someone who can?
Yeah.
Right? I'm again so sorry that you've also experienced medical gaslighting. It's horrible. It's embarrassing sometimes. It is very exploitative, like, I don't know what the right word is for
Yeah,
that,
because
but
you pay to go to the appointment just for them to tell you you have anxiety, and I'm like, you just wouldn't know.
exactly. Sometimes it's like, what am I here for? Like, did we just throw down like, 100, however many bucks it is to go to the doctors, and just for this, just to walk out feeling worse than when I came in, like mentally or, emotionally,
Yeah.
physically. Like I I don't have FND, but before they found my genetic mutations, um, and realized I was having epileptic seizures and stuff like that. FND was like one of my main diagnoses. I was never officially diagnosed, but that was always in the back of their mind. And going back to how we were kind of talking about it, and I know we talked about it before, but like how there's just so many people diagnosed with functional neurological disorder that may not actually have functional neurological disorder. Like they might have a genetic mutation or,
Yeah, because I've seen like I've even had people message me and say like, I was diagnosed with FND and I actually have pandas, or like people have like Lyme disease, or they have like spinal cord injuries, or just like any kind of other thing. And like you were saying that your type of seizures is caused by like an epilepsy that's not like really usually traceable in the
yeah.
EEG. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, and if you wouldn't have gotten the genetic testing, they wouldn't have known that.
Yep.
And so I'm like, how many people are just out here like not able to afford testing or able to get
Hmm.
testing or don't have doctors who are care enough and they're dealing with something completely different and
Absolutely.
they just don't know.
Absolutely. I think it's 100% possible. Like, I feel like I'm kind of proof of that, because like they were really going down that road with me and then the genetic mutations popped up and then they were just like, "Oh, hold on, pause." Like, and they were calling my seizures like migraines at one point. Right? Like what? Like literally crazy. And then, I thought I was having strokes. Like they just kept over the years were getting worse and worse and finally my genetic mutation showed up that it literally causes epileptic encephalopathy. And then they after that they were just honestly, one of them apologized to me. One of them was just like, I am
That's really good.
I'm yeah, but at the same time I'm also just like, thanks for the apology, but I will not be coming back here. I'm gonna go look for a new neurologist, because I just think that there are so many more cases worth looking into, especially people with functional neurological disorder.
Yeah, and like, and that's the other thing, hard thing about that is like, in combination with the gaslighting, it's like if you were to ask your doctor, like, hey, could you do more testing? Can you look into this? Can you look into that?
Hmm.
Then like you usually get off Google and you know, like I
Yeah.
follow one girl that I follow that has FND. She asked her doctor about pandas possibly having pandas, and he was like, "You need to see a psychiatrist." And I was like, "That is crazy." And so like I want to look into other things, but I'm just like so scared that's gonna be like the reaction.
Yeah, and that's also one of those things where it's just like, do I speak up or do I like?
And also, it's like even if I had envy, like okay, but
Mm-hmm.
if there's a chance that I have something else that could be like seriously affecting me, and like might get worse, like there's just so many you just don't know, and
Yeah.
and doctors like really don't just like don't look at all the options before they diagnose you with MD like they're supposed to. They just it's easy to say that instead of actually doing any like work.
Oh, I completely agree. Because, but it's like, wouldn't you, if you had, were diagnosed with something, right? And you maybe deep down know that there's something else going on that needs to be looked into, or maybe there's like a possibility that it could be something else. Wouldn't you want to know?
Yeah.
I think that genetic testing should be so much more accessible and so much less expensive than it is. I understand why it's expensive because it's a very crazy process going through several rounds of genetic testing myself, but I just wish that so many more people had access to it because I think that there are people and I think even medical professionals would be surprised what they would find. I want to move on just a little bit. So, in your experience, what are some common misconceptions or misunderstandings people have about Addison's disease and functional neurological disorder, or honestly any one of your conditions that you're willing to share, and how do you address them? How do you address the people online that may say some not so nice stuff, or family members, or just how would you explain it? And can you just tell me a little bit about those misconceptions as well?
Yeah. Addison's disease, I feel like, and it's just for like any autoimmune disease, really.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like when ones that are like you're suddenly sick, you're dying, and then you take your medication, you figure it out, and then you're like, not dying anymore. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that people just think like, oh, you're better now, right? And then everything's great and awesome. And I'm just like, no, it's not. Like, for one, like there's so many symptoms of the conditions, like specifically Addison's disease, like fatigue and like being tired and like stress really affects your cortisol level. Um,
Yeah.
and like people just don't think about that. And then plus the side effects of like medications that you take. Um,
Mm-hmm.
people I've had people in my family or people around me like, oh, like you're just lazy, like you just don't want to do this, you just don't want to do that. I'm like, no, like I feel like I'm dying. Like I used to
Yeah.
tell people like I feel like there's like weights on my arms and legs, like
Mm-hmm.
and this is like as a child and like everyone just thought like, oh, you're just being dramatic. I'm like, no. So I feel like that specifically, like with autoimmune disease, like you're like people need to know like you don't just like magically get better, like there's so many things going on, and like it's not just like medications are not just like a here take this and you're fixed. Like there's some side effects of medication, and then there's still so many different like symptoms of the disease, and it's not magically better.
Yeah, that's a very great point. I'm so glad you brought that up. Medication can cause a lot more problems than what it's actually, trying to treat. I'm on epilepsy medication and now I'm always tired. I'm very irritable, I don't feel well. I feel a lot more heavy, like than I used to. Also, going back to chronic illnesses not being a one size fits all type thing, like there are so many in betweens. Like you have your good days, you have your really bad days, you have your in between days. And it's a spectrum, and every day is different.
And also the fact that like it affects everyone different. Like there might be somebody that
Yeah.
has Addison's disease and they can like go run and do so many different
Hmm.
activities, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's also another great point to bring up. I think that, and that's also like why I wanted to have you on here is because to get a new perspective of this stuff because and to also let others know there is different sides to this. Everybody is different with whether someone else out there with Addison's disease is watching or someone else out there with functional neurological disorder is watching. It's kind of beautiful to hear all the different sides of it because I think people feel kind of alienated from their loved ones, like their family members or friends, because, well, the internet says this, or like if I look it up, or a doctor told me this about this, and it's like, okay, but like I'm the one living with it, and this is my experience.
And especially like when I was a child, like there was no like Facebook or like, the
Hmm.
internet wasn't as like big. And so people weren't like, oh, like look at this, and you couldn't connect with other people. And so I was just like
Yeah,
dealing with these symptoms. I didn't know anyone else that had it. I didn't meet one person that had it, but she was like 60 years old. So I was like, can't really relate to you that much.
yeah,
And so it was just, it was hard because
yeah.
I had all these symptoms and everybody was like, I think you're fine.
Yeah, and then that is so invalidating, and
Yeah.
and that is the worst thing. Invalidation, I think, is like one of the worst things to feel when you're going through chronic illnesses, rare diseases, because it feels like no one understands you, and they really may not, but there's a way to talk about these things in a, you know, comfortable setting where, okay, I don't understand this. Could you explain your side and how you experience this? Like, there's just a right way to do it. And I don't think people realize that. Yeah. You have been active on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, sharing your experiences with your conditions. And I applaud you so much for that. I know the internet is not a nice place most of the time, but I really look up to you for that. How has sharing your story online impacted your journey, both personally and in terms of, raising awareness?
Um, well, sharing my story online has helped me meet a lot of people who have similar conditions to me. Like I've met you
Yeah.
and like so many other people. And it's like what we were just talking about, how your family and like people around you don't really know what it's like and like might say some inappropriate things, even if they mean well, like it's just hard to be around people that don't know what it's like all the time. And
Yeah.
so it's really good to meet other people and like you have someone to turn to if you have issues, like you
Yeah.
know that they know what's going on.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think that social media has given me a sense of security emotionally, just being able to relate with other people and not feeling so alone, because the world can be such a lonely place living with a disability, chronic illness, whatever the case may be. It can be so isolating. So, we often hear about the challenges of living with rare and chronic conditions, especially on this podcast. I talk about it a lot. I will continue always talking about it. But could you share some strategies or coping mechanisms that have helped you manage your conditions and, just maintain your well being, physically, emotionally, mentally, just like some life hacks?
I would say for me, I listen to your body for sure. Um, and like use mobility aids if you need to. Like I have a shower chair, I have a cane most of the time, and like a wheelchair when I need to go like further places.
I think it is so important for others to hear about like the use of like mobility aids, and especially even things as simple as shower chairs, how much easier taking care of yourself can be with just like the smallest things. And I know it's not like small in the grand scheme of things, but just those things like really can help a person.
Yeah, little things like shower chairs and canes, stuff like
Hmm.
help you save energy.
How has your I know you use a cane. How has your mobility aids helped you? Because I know that there are other people, even maybe our age, that are going through similar things, but are maybe like kind of, there's stigma around getting a walking aid, or mobility aid or whatever, around our age, because it's like, oh, well, I'm not, a certain age yet, or whatever the stigma may be. Like, I don't know if I need one, because I totally felt like that when I first was like, oh man, I'm having trouble walking. Like, I had to get a wheelchair. That was really hard for me emotionally. Getting a walker and a cane was hard. And, so I think that's important to bring up.
Yeah, I put it using a cane or like any kind of mobility aid for a really long time because I was like, I don't know if I need it. And even still now, sometimes I like walk around without it, and I'm like, I shouldn't do that. But I like the first time that I was like, I'm using a cane and like I
Mhm.
have to, it was like on my birthday last year because like my hip pain was just so bad. And I was like, I want to be able to enjoy my birthday just a little bit. And like I
Mhm.
was still in pain and like the people around me kind of laughed at me a little bit, but I was like, whatever, I'm using this because like I'm in so much pain. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to enjoy it just a little bit. And so since then, I have been using a cane. And then I got FND and was like, my leg was just like, no. So I've got a
Mhm.
wheelchair and I used that for a little while and now I'm using a cane again sometimes. Most of the
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's crazy to me how when I finally first gave in to the thought of a mobility aid, how much easier it was to go do the things I wanted to do.
yeah.
Yeah. Are there any kind of like self-care things that you do, any like ritualistic stuff, that might be good for like mental health or just others going through like chronic illnesses and stuff?
Well, I
It's
continue.
okay if not. I literally do not have like any type of like like nighttime routine or anything like that.
I have a skincare routine, but I like do it like a couple times a week because like I just don't have the energy.
No,
But
that's so real. Like I literally only do skincare like 3 or 4 times a week because most of the days I'm in bed.
yeah, like I used to be like very avid about like you have to do this, you have to do this. I have to okay, can't go to bed without my moisturizer on. But now I'm like, girl, I do not care. I'm like
Uh-huh.
I can't. But
No, you're so real
um
for that.
some other things that I do though for it this is specifically for like chronic pain, like
Mhm.
I have like roll on lidocaine, like biofreeze, and I have a TENS unit and like I
Yes.
just bought one of those, like, I keep seeing them pick up those, like, body pillows or pregnancy body pillows.
Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
I'm like, they're not just for pregnant people because, like, I've had so many leg dislocations.
Yeah.
Like, sleeping is, like, the worst part because your body's relaxed. So
Hmm.
my shoulder and my hip are usually in so much pain. But that has really helped me a lot.
Is it comfortable? I've thought about getting one also. I have a spinal disease and I am like having trouble sleeping, and I thought about getting one of those.
I bought mine on Temu, and it is
Oh,
it's not as good as the ones on TikTok, but like it's definitely better than nothing.
all right, so valid, so fair.
But yeah, like if you have any type of pain or any trouble sleeping because of stuff like that, like it's totally like worth getting.
Noted. I will look into it. I'm gonna be on Amazon after this, like body pillows.
The other thing I was gonna say is talk to a therapist if you can, and or connect with people online, like I was saying earlier, because that's a really big help for my mental health.
Yeah,
It's like seeing if people are going through the same things.
that's a great point, and that is so key, especially going through stuff like this. It can be like we talked about. It can be very isolating, and I think reaching out to a counselor, or therapist, or peers online, it's so helpful, and it's just one of those things that's it's like, what do I have to lose? It can be so beneficial.
Yeah. And then you can
Yeah.
make it be bestie.
That's what I'm saying. And look, here we are. So, looking ahead, what are your hopes and goals for the future in terms of advocacy, awareness, and just managing your health?
My dog is here.
Oh,
Um,
hello.
this is Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Oh my gosh, I'm so cute. She's so cute. How
She's
old is she?
she's gonna be 12 this year.
Oh,
She's a grandma, but she acts like a
oh,
puppy.
my heart. I will literally start crying. Okay, so looking ahead, what are your hopes and goals for the future in terms of advocacy, awareness, and just managing your health in general?
I want to like, advocate for like women of color, um, and like show like how it really is. Like it's been years, and of
Hmm.
me going through this. Like how it's not as easy for some people to get diagnoses. Um, I just want to be like I just want to post like super real stuff because I don't have the energy for all that extra stuff.
No, so real, so real.
I also like just advocate for like more involvement from doctors, like especially with like FND, like people see like how debilitating the symptoms are,
Hmm.
and like I just want people to know like they're just 100% real because like so many people think that it's psychological in your head, and it's
Hmm.
so totally not.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why doctors are so like uninvolved, is because they just need you to decide the way you want. Like I was literally
Yeah.
told, if you just read about it and you'll realize the seizures are not real and they'll stop having seizures. And I
That's
was
so
like,
crazy to me.
okay, but it did not happen.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's super debilitating. I just want people to see how hard it is, and doctors specifically to maybe come upon my page to see like what it's really like and how hard it is, and like maybe it will make them want to do something.
It is so courageous and so strong and amazing and beautiful of you to want to share your story, want to educate others, spread awareness, especially to medical professionals that may come across your content. I've had a lot of medical professionals come across mine and say, I will be taking this into consideration now. And I think it's so important. And I just want to say it's amazing for doing it. And I know you can change the world with it. I know that, you are making the world a better place just by speaking up and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So we're almost to the end of the interview, but I just want to ask, as someone who has dealt with multiple complex medical issues, what advice would you give to others who may be struggling to find answers or support for their own health challenges?
I would say you know your body best, and you deserve help, and you deserve to feel better, and just like keep going to the doctor, keep pushing your doctors to help you. And if they're not doing all the things that anything or all the things that they can to help you figure out what's wrong with you, then find a new doctor and just keep going. Like it's super hard because like I said, like I'm still struggling to find doctors to help me when like everything's right there and they're in your face,
Mm,
and it's just like somebody just help me.
yeah.
And so like it's super hard. You just have to keep going and keep trying because like it's really easy to give up. Like there's periods of time where I was like, I'm just gonna just like, and sometimes you have to take breaks from going to the doctor because it is a lot.
Yeah.
But there's times I'm just like, oh, whatever. I guess it's just gonna be like this. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I just, but I really do. I just want to feel better. Like I think a lot of people think that chronically ill people are just doing for attention and they don't want to feel better. But I'm like, no, everyone wants to feel better. Like that's why we go to the doctor. Like that's why I post about everything, because I want people to see how it really is, and I want you know someone to help me, and hopefully my page can help other people, and they can see maybe they have similar symptoms and they'll go to their doctor.
Honestly, such great advice. I, appreciate you sharing all of that. I appreciate you sharing your insight and your take, from one chronically ill bestie to another. There's just so much with everything that you've said that I can relate to. I know that others will relate to it. I'm sure that there are people on here that will listen to this and take that advice and will use it to benefit their own health journeys. And that's the goal. And I really do think that that they will do that. And I just appreciate you coming on here so much and sharing your story, being so open and vulnerable with us and everyone out there. And I really just feel for you, and I totally relate with a lot of stuff, especially the medical gaslighting side of stuff and the speculation around diagnosis and like
Yeah,
especially the online speculation. Like people online will go crazy with their
like
opinions.
there's so many there's like a whole subreddit now of like people fake claiming people, and like that is so harmful and just awful. And like I
Yeah,
have so many comments. Like there's these specific accounts and like that like hunt F&D people and like comment on all of their posts. And
that's
I'm like, you clearly have time to do all that, but okay.
yeah,
Um,
trolls.
and I'm like, this is just crazy. And so like you just gotta not listen to it. And like I said, you know your body, and like people think whatever they want, but you know you know yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, I just want to say thank you for sharing everything you shared today. It's definitely going to touch lives. It's going to help some people, and I hope that this has been therapeutic for you.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. I'm hoping that if anybody watching and it does help you, then that's amazing.
I want to thank you again for being here. It has been so fun. I really had so much fun. This was like my first interview I've done on the podcast so far. We're only on episode 3, but I hope that there will be more. And I'm just so glad that the first one was you. This was so fun.
I'm so glad it was me too. I'm so excited for this to come out.
Oh, me too. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. It means the world to me, and I know it means the world to other people as well watching. So just thank you so much, and I wish you nothing but the best.
I wish you the best too.
All right, my friends, that is it for today's episode. I just want to extend my gratitude towards Savannah for her openness and willingness to come on here and be so vulnerable and share her story. She is such an amazing human being. My heart truly goes out to her for everything she's been through. I completely relate to a lot of stuff that she's saying. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there do as well. Um, I am just so happy that we got to talk, and I hope that someone somewhere out there in the universe, the cosmos, finds this episode and can, I don't know, maybe find some solace and comfort in it. That's my hope. Again, I think that raising awareness and talking with other people about disabilities, undiagnosed conditions, you know, rare diseases, chronic illnesses, it's also important. And I am just so blessed and thankful to be in a position where that I can do this now. A few months ago, I really was not in a position, or really didn't feel healthy enough to be able to do all this stuff. I feel like now I'm doing so much, and I'm just loving every second of it. I'm so happy. I feel like this truly is my calling. I think that this podcast can become something amazing for the community. And yeah, let me know if you guys like these kinds of episodes. I had so much fun. I definitely will be having more guests on in the future. But yeah, just let me know. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out way more than you know. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate all the love and support. This has been an amazing experience so far. I know we're only on episode 3, which is crazy because like I literally feel like I was just filming episode 1, and I know we're gonna be like down the road. Maybe one day, besties, we'll get to episode 100 and be like, wow, I feel like I was just filming episode 1. Maybe one day we can get to episode 100. That's my goal for this podcast. I don't ever see myself stopping this. But I hope today's episode was educational, informative. I hope that it resonates with a lot of you out there. And if it does, just know you're not alone. Know that there are people waiting to also feel less alone. I think the human experience is about love and connection. And I think it's important that we experiment with that and express that, because battling these very difficult things can be so isolating. No matter the situation, medical or not, life can be very isolating. So it's important to reach out. Remember, if you ever feel like you're in a situation where you are maybe struggling or feels like life's a lot, do not be afraid to reach out. Therapy is something that has really benefited me, especially living with all these medical conditions. And it's helped me so much. And same with social media. I'm not telling you guys to go out there and, just put your story out there. It's a very vulnerable thing. Um, but, maybe check out online support groups, and don't forget to join the Rare and Undiagnosed Disease Support Group that I started on Facebook. I'll put a link in the YouTube description. I realized I didn't do that last time, last episode, the last few episodes actually, but I will do that this time. So yeah, I love you guys so much. Thanks for all the love and support. And thank you for listening to the Rare Matters podcast, where we talk about rare matters because rare matters. Oh, I can't say that enough. Thank you guys for another great episode. Thank you, Savannah. And I will see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.